Jeff has given up on me having the slides available in advance on his computer. So there's no point in even asking. So it's just impossible. Okay, so I'd just like to take a picture. So I'm in this unique position here to be able to see all of you. And wow, your eyesight. Oh boy. All right. Actually, you're not smiling. Come on. All right. Over here. And over here. Now this time wave. Come on. Right? In the middle. Over here. Great. Such a unique vantage point. Now, my name is not John Newton. My name is @JohnNewton on Twitter. And who's on Twitter right now? Who has a Twitter-capable device? And who's going to tweet right now saying what a great conference this is? Who's going to tweet and say what a great conference this is? All right, good. Now, I'm glad they chose a nice short hashtag for this conference, but it is Alfresco DevCon, and I'm sure, nope. Oh, well, actually on the website it says Alfresco DevCon. So, there you go. Real time. Now, I'm going to be talking about futures, okay? So I'm going to talk about, all the things that I normally talk about at this thing. And I just thought, just for the sake of the engineers, more than anything else, I'm not promising anything. This is more intention than anything else. We're not a public company yet. And when we're a public company, then we're really going to have to read these things. But you can read it. Good. Done. Okay? And the agenda is like the same old agenda that you would normally see at this thing, where would you find us, and why would you find us there, and who are we up against, and why are we better, and what did we do last year, and what do we think we're going to do next year, and what are we going to be doing differently the following year. That's the same old agenda every single time, so you should be familiar with it by now. You should also be familiar with the fact that I like to make fun of politicians around the world. Whether it's Obama or Berlusconi or everybody that Obama's running against or whatever. But I thought this year I would do something completely different, which was I like Monty Python. And I just thought it would be a new change of pace to go ahead and use Monty Python for this thing. So I sent them a very polite, nice letter saying I'd like to use their stuff. And they replied. Well, screw you. I'm going to do it anyway. So the title of my presentation is called Cloud-A-Lot. It's a piss take on Monty Python and the Holy Grail, because we have divine work to do. We have a quest, a vision to do great work. And we have such fantastic customers and partners and community that they absolutely inspire us to do great things. And it's great that you can actually share it, so we actually know what you're doing. And this conference is perfect for being able to do that, to learn what we're doing. And of course, we've taken a new approach, an open architecture, a new way of doing stuff. Not worrying about intellectual property and whatever. So that allows us to go out with this loyal and intrepid community to go off and do great things. And with that, You know, we kind of experiment, we try different things, but it was useful for us to kind of reflect over the last year. What is this sacred mission that we're on? And what is it that we're trying to accomplish? And so we thought about it, and we want to stick to the knitting, do the basics, do the things that we do really well, because the potential for this is absolutely enormous. What we want to be able to do is be this open platform, open source, to be open architecture, to be open process, to be open deployment, to do everything in the open, and do it for something really specific. Now, it's easy to be jealous of Dropbox being worth $6 billion after just a few years or whatever, but you know what? What we do is actually more important. It's the business critical documents that we're dealing with. It's the business critical content that goes up onto the website. It's the business critical collaboration. You know, not just the easy consumer-oriented stuff, but the stuff that's important. And in that, we're automating really content-intensive business processes and collaborative processes, and we're doing it inside the firewall and outside the firewall. And as a result, what we're able to do is help you provide better service for your customers and adapt more quickly to different market conditions. And you know what? This is not a bad place to be. So we are the visionary in what is a $5 billion industry. Now, what you may not be aware of is that industry is actually accelerating again. After many years of just kind of slow growth and being commoditized by us and SharePoint, it actually grew by 20% last year, growing from $4 billion to $5 billion. Actually, probably a little bit more than 20%. And why? And where is this? Well, I know where we are. You know, look at this chart right here. This is in the US and Europe. And Europe's a little bit skewed because public services like health and whatever are actually counted as part of government. But government's about 20%. Finance is maybe about 12%. Manufacturing is about 10%. Media and publishing is about 10%, computer software, travel and logistics, transportation, health, business services, education. What do these things all have in common? They're information-intensive industries that need to be able to react quickly with those information needs. So let me just ask you, how many people here are either working for the government or working on projects in support of government? A little bit higher, come on, all right? Yeah, so it's kind of consistent with that. That looks like maybe about 20 to 25%. How many people are working in banking and finance or in support of those financial services organizations, building products for them or services or whatever? Okay, that's about the same, or a little bit less. High-tech manufacturing. And just manufacturing in general, okay? Services, all right? And media, okay? Now, poor old BBC, you know, I just look at PBS and NPR and, you know, a bunch of wannabes, really. So, anybody here from the BBC? You know, they are a customer. You just go to the Doctor Who website. That's Alfresco right there. In fact, there's a whole bunch of other projects going on right now. Okay. So travel, transportation, logistics. Okay, few. Healthcare or anything related to healthcare. Education. Actually, education by far in the community is the biggest segment. Now, they don't pay a lot, but so basically, Alfresco helps us do really great work in great companies all around the world. And it's possible for people to be able to take this and deploy it on an enterprise-wide basis. So, excuse me here. Okay, so it allows people to be able to react to new market and regulatory requirements, to be able to improve customer responsiveness, boost productivity and time to value, and then, of course, save money. So in terms of what you're trying to accomplish with Alfresco, those tend to be the themes that keep coming up over and over again. In fact, why Alfresco? Often it's, we can make it do what we wanted it to do. So these are the things that people are trying to do with that. But it's not always possible sometimes to achieve those objectives. That people kind of come in and try to take over whatever budget there is. You have to fight for whatever scraps there are. So that's what you're trying to accomplish with it. Now, what exactly are you trying to do with that? So I'd like to talk about the life of content, basically the life cycle and how content is being used in here. It's often being used for business-critical document management, and perhaps that's the most important aspect to what's being done in terms of managing content that's really important, such as contracts and things like that, records and compliance, things like proposals, image capture, scanning, and things like that, correspondence tracking, and of course, web content management. So actually, a Spamalot website does not use Alfresco. I don't know what it uses, but here's some examples of people who actually do use Alfresco. So basically what we've done is we've gone and we've taken a survey of all the different types of processes and document types and whatever that are being used by Alfresco, and all the different types of solutions to be able to solve those business processes. And it's important for us to know what we're doing, because if we want to stick to the knitting, we should be supporting the different processes that people are actually working on, because customers are looking for solutions. It's great that you can go and build things, and certainly there's a lot of partners here that are actually going and creating things, and there's a lot that you can do with Alfresco out of the box. But where we want to go is to be able to take and package those solutions. So some of the most common types of solutions, we want to be able to have, at least package certified solutions around compliance, content collaboration, case management, engineering drawing, digital assets, image capture, ERP integration, document management. It's the same old boring stuff that we've been doing, but we can do it with better ways than we've done before. And so we're not the only ones that are going out and doing that. Also, the competition's out there doing that. So who is it that we actually compete with? And what can we learn from those? And how can we be a more competitive set of solutions and help the partners also deliver those solutions? Because whenever we go into a particular company, there isn't just one content management system that's in there. Sometimes it's something like a Documentum, and it's kind of sad to watch Documentum because, it was my baby. I helped create it. And you know what? I don't know anybody there anymore. There's like 2 people left in however many thousands of people they have in EMC. 2 people left from when I was there before. And no wonder, it's just like they're just losing so much money because I don't think they know what they're doing anymore. And then we see other systems as well that basically you have to have lots of servers to be able to accomplish what you can do with just one server of Alfresco. And then there's IBM that I just don't really get, where they're coming from here. So, and of course, we're seeing some of the new stuff, some of the cloud stuff that's out there, because, cloud is just kind of sexy overall, right? And it's, you just kind of get a little bit jealous of some of the money that's being raised, but I have no idea where that money's going, to be quite frank. But the one that we normally come up against is SharePoint. And it's not surprising, if you are tied into Office, then, basically what Gartner's saying is that 70% of their clients actually have SharePoint. Maybe about 2/3 of all companies have SharePoint, something like that. But that doesn't mean that it's necessarily good for everything. So things like document management, real document management, real records management, things like that. It isn't necessarily suitable for that. So what makes Alfresco different from those? Well, we're open. And we're the open and hybrid platform where it's open standards, open source, open architecture, open deployment, open data model, open connections. We can just adapt things to whatever it is that you need to be able to do because it's just a very open platform. So our differentiation is just open, open, open. That's a really simple way of distinguishing what Alfresco actually does. But how you actually take and apply that openness is that it gives you a new sense of business agility to be able to adapt to new business requirements. It also, if I look at the applications that you guys have built, I would say more than half of the applications I've seen are focused on customers and really responding to customers' requirements, customers' complaints, things like that. And of course, it's the transparency that helps build the trust in the Alfresco product. You know what you're getting. In fact, most people have spent quite a bit of time with Alfresco before they even contact us. So that's where we've been, and where are we going? Last year I told you what we were going to do, and I would say we did a pretty good job of delivering what we said that we were going to do. So I'll go through it really quickly. Basically, we've been working on cloud, we've been working on the enterprise product, we've been working on share, we've been working on mobile, we've been working on ecosystem pieces and hybrid and stuff like that. So everything was based upon the Enterprise 4 product that we released last year. And how many people are on 4 now? That's good, more than half. Okay? And all the pieces that are in there, and all the connections that it provides you, and things like social publishing and connection to mobile and stuff like that. And it's the basis for Alfresco in the cloud as well. It's a scalable platform. And that makes us unique to be able to take that product and be able to deploy it anywhere, on the cloud, multi-tenant, in private cloud, in public cloud. And it also allows us to be able to work on the user interface and actually iterate on the user interface faster. Now, it's been a little bit of a journey for us to be able to take Alfresco, deploy it on Amazon, and actually constantly make changes. But changes are happening much more frequently now, and you'll see more and more stuff coming out. And we can test that instantly. As soon as you start using it, we can see, do you like it or not like it? Do you go away as soon as you try something? Do you give us feedback on it? And we've also been working on the activity engine as well. This is really important, and we spent a lot of time and energy. We took a few perhaps wrong turns with activity in terms of where we wanted to go, but we've kind of refocused it and re-energized the community around it as well. And you're going to see more and more stuff coming out with activity. But in the last year, we've had a lot of performance improvements and also the ability to connect into mobile as well. And of course, you can deploy, you can run business processes in the cloud, and you'll be able to do much more in the cloud in the future as well. One of the most complicated things was a hybrid sync, to be able to take and synchronize between the cloud and on-premise. That was absolutely unique, to be able to have the same product in 2 places, but also to be able to connect them together. So whatever happens on the cloud gets automatically reflected on-premise. Whatever happens on-premise gets automatically reflected in the cloud. And it's controlled by the enterprise, but with complete cloud accessibility. Now, this was not an easy thing to do. It's a very complicated algorithm, and there's more that we can do in this area as well. But it is possible, And you'll be seeing more stuff with synchronization. It's a cornerstone of where we want to be able to go. We also released a single API based upon CMIS, and that opened up whole new opportunities of being able to build applications that work on-premise, in the cloud, private, public, and actually enable that hybrid. How many English people are in the audience right now? Okay. I'm not sure whether I should have put that last part in there, but wink, wink. Anyway, so Alfresco Mobile, that's all possible because of the single API. And all the things that we said that we're going to do, we actually went out there, released it. So secure access, be able to access in the cloud, on-premise, both, to be able to preview, to be able to comment, to be able to capture. And we have new releases coming up very, very soon as well. And this is just all changing the nature of collaboration both inside the enterprise and outside the enterprise. The API also makes it possible for us to do whole new integrations. So integrating to cloud applications as well as on-premise applications. So you've seen new releases of Jive. You've seen new releases of integrations of Google Docs. You've been able to see integrations with all the social publishing pieces that we had. And also things like Salesforce as well, where you could actually attach a document to a Salesforce object like an opportunity and have that communicate with Chatter to know what's going on, have the information stored in the cloud, and then you can actually search it. Now, we were the only vendor that I was aware of at the 90,000 participant conference at Salesforce. We were the only vendor that was an enterprise vendor because we're the only ones with a story that says, hey, don't worry, you know, Salesforce is in the cloud. You've got Alfresco on-premise, and the two can actually talk to each other through a hybrid architecture. That's going to open up whole new opportunities, not just with Salesforce, but any cloud application. So in the future, you'll see more of that. And also, being able to work with more complicated authentication mechanisms like OAuth and whatever allowed us to be able to do proper Google Docs integration as well, both on-premise and in the cloud. And also, as of today, when you go to Alfresco in the cloud, you now have Google Docs there as well. So you can go ahead and edit documents directly in Google Docs. And actually, the integration is one of the best ones that I've ever seen of anybody who integrates with Google Docs. So do give it a try. So all this has been packaged up in something called Alfresco One, the Alfresco One solution that just provides all those pieces and a whole new opportunity to be able to create new business processes as well as being able to support existing business processes. So that's where we've been, and now where are we going? Well, there are these whole new scenarios that are out there that are not being serviced. I mean, the whole idea of an extranet is really hard. People have tried and attempted to do this with SharePoint. It is not easy, and most of those fail. The whole idea of an extranet for business-to-business collaboration, though, is actually essential. We also have this new ecosystem as well, where half of your IT infrastructure is outside the enterprise. So how do you connect? You have a lot of people who just said, you know what, I've had it with IT. I don't want to buy hardware, I don't want to buy software, but I want everything completely under my control. Well, how the heck do you do that? And then mobility as well. You know, you need to have a VPN to be able to connect. That isn't necessarily the easiest way to be able to connect to all these pieces. So when we look at it, collaboration must extend beyond the firewall. You know, so when you collaborate, you know, with remote offices, but also your partners, this is all part of the same value chain. And when you have mobile users, they must have consistent, secure access to all that information. In fact, if you have your own device, how the heck does that connect there? And you know, if it is your own device, is it loaded with the security software that allows you to be able to connect? Well, if you belong to the FBI or whatever, I'm sure that's true. Although if you work for the FBI, you will have a BlackBerry. And yet you want to have one of these because that's far more cool than a BlackBerry. And it's got much better games as well. Also, when you go beyond that, you don't know what's going to happen outside that firewall. If I start using things like Dropbox or whatever to be able to take and put them on my device, my contracts and whatever, you can say that's forbidden, but people just take their chances. Who's going to find out? So when you have that collaboration, what you really want is to have the policies and control, that you just basically lose with a lot of cloud services or email or whatever. If I want to collaborate between my on-premise system and customers elsewhere, these are generally the only choices that I have. And as a result, if I start moving in other systems, then all the metadata, the access controls, the rules and policies, the workflow, they just go completely down the hole. You just basically lose control. And losing control is a really bad thing. So I had to throw one political thing in there. I just couldn't help myself here. So where's all this going? Well, it's everybody knows where the word spam comes from, right? Well, this is where the word cloud probably comes from as well. You got PaaS cloud, you got SaaS cloud, you got CAS cloud, you got CAS cloud with PaaS and whatever. And then the next thing you know, the Vikings are out there singing along, saying it's not just open, 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 it's cloud, cloud, cloud. But are they really? So this is a survey from AIM in September. And actually, AIM is doing some really great stuff. And I'm happy to have become the chairman of AIM in this past year. And the way that they're looking at problems is to actually analyze and see where things are going and how do people really feel about these things. And basically, the CIOs are not ready. IT is not ready for this. We're talking about a few % of corporations that are actually thinking about taking all their content, or even the initial pieces of their content and putting it in the cloud. It's just not happening. So maybe in the next 4 to 6, 8 years, and yet we can see the business users actually do want to do that. The business users are saying, yes, we want to go out there. The line of business saying, yeah, we want to collaborate with other customers. And IT says, no, we don't want to collaborate with other customers. We don't want to take all this stuff and make it more accessible. So this is where we're trying to get to, is the holy grail, to get to this cloud-connected content that is actually going and connecting everything up, inside and outside, and using the cloud as the basis of driving workflow as well as metadata, business processes across the entire enterprise, across the entire value chain, including beyond the firewall overall. So this is the vision that we're going to. Now, how are we actually going to achieve that? Well, that's what the strategy is all about. I talked about what are you trying to accomplish with Alfresco. You're trying to get business agility. You're trying to respond to customers better. And so we're looking at that and saying, okay, what is our business agility roadmap? How are we going to make you more successful? How are we going to focus on the business value that you can get out of Alfresco? Well, one thing is solutions, solutions, solutions. That's where customers want to go. They want stuff to work. They want stuff to work out of the box. In fact, if they don't need to have hardware, then that'd be great. We're going to focus on those business critical document processes. We're going to focus on the hybrid cloud and the elasticity, distributed syncing, everything that makes the hybrid cloud possible. We're a bit early in the mobile, but it is definitely the future of where things are going, especially in terms of content consumption. And the things that actually give you that insight, the information that exists in the content, how do we take and tap the power of that to make you a more agile business? Well, one is we'll get more context insight, focus on search, and then also things like organization and the process to be able to drive the content through the system. We want to work on the ecosystem to build up those solution sets and the integrations. And basically, all these pieces are the pieces that we're using in our ultimate goal to become a public company and to become a successful public company as well. We want to emulate the most successful enterprise SaaS companies as we move toward IPO. Now, a really good example, one that we're not going to use a Dropbox as an example of that. What I'd like to use is something like a Workday, a real enterprise software company that just went public last month in October. It's now worth $8 billion, or nearly $8 billion, because they're solving real business problems and adding real business value. So it's much easier to justify. And the steps toward that this year are around making it easier to manage the system, getting the users on board, making it much simpler for the users, and to also be able to focus on that mobile and desktop experience, including desktop synchronization, to focus on that hybrid public-private environment, and SDKs for the solutions, and then be able to package all those pieces up. We're also going to build stuff differently as well. The fact that everything is on cloud, or can run on cloud, is really good, because what it allows us to do is to take these new user interface pieces and try them out first in the cloud, see if you actually like them. We can also work on the infrastructure as well. Alfresco is now its own best or worst initial customer for new features, because we need to take this into a mission-critical environment, with very high uptime, and be able to take and deploy it. So things like clustering and indexing and stuff like that, it better work, or else our service gets impacted as a result. So we are definitely the guinea pigs for a lot of the stuff before you even necessarily need to get it. Now, some of these pieces are very complicated, and open source has been a great way to be able to innovate some of these more innovative pieces in the infrastructure. So we take and put those out to community first. And any integrations we'll release independently. So not everything will necessarily need to be tied together. So this is how we're going to be doing development. And actually our chief architect, Dave Caruana, is now responsible for driving that whole process from end to end, from actual creation all the way to the end user actually using the product. Okay, now the first piece that's going to come out is going to come out very soon. That's the Enterprise 4.2. And we're dealing with some of the issues that are perhaps the most urgent and the most important for us and for you as well. So administration and monitoring is very high up there. Taking all the features that we've had in the cloud and being able to take and put them in there is very high up there. Application extensibility is really important. And then improving the user interface and user experience. Now, what happens if you do have your server and it isn't necessarily running? Well, then administration needs to be able to come in and deal with it. So we're going to be adding new easy clustering, authentication, setup, and validation so you don't run into this problem in the first place. And we're going to be providing much better logging and monitoring. We're also going to make it easier to be able to manage models and actually group them. If you know aspects, we've been trying to find a nice, friendly term for aspects for quite some time. One that your mother or your wife or husband or whatever could really understand. What is an aspect? And so the term we use is property group. Also, we're going to be working on UI refresh, and especially in terms of the console. We're going to be adding new rules and actions, and then more configurable views for forms, properties, things like that. And so hopefully we'll be seeing that right after this presentation. And of course, the public API makes it possible to be able to access many of these things. But we are working on the console in such a way that it will be very accessible without necessarily going through a share tier or whatever, and to be able to focus on those things that are important, like clustering, like authentication, which are some of the more difficult things that people have had challenges with. And so hopefully we'll make the administrator's life so much easier. And we're also going to be working on the new user interface changes. So like I said, having that cloud is really useful, where we can go ahead and take and try things out, try new user experiences, kind of streamline that process, see where people kind of drop out and where they come back in. Also make it possible for you to use touch as well. And then there's going to be more share extensions as well. And in fact, those were some of the most popular sessions in Berlin in terms of how do you take and extend share and what are some of the new features that are available in there. And we're using the same mechanisms to do things like the records management, including in-place records management. So with the cloud, we'll continue to refactor that and make it so easy that you'll talk. And there must be a better way of doing media as well. So you'll see new media management. In fact, if you go onto the cloud, you can go ahead and try out the new gallery views and be able to see thumbnails of your documents as well. I once had a accountant friend that said, I'd use Alfresco if I could just see thumbnails. Well, he got the thumbnails, but it's nice to be able to see them all in a row because metadata doesn't necessarily help actually seeing what spreadsheet there is. And you also asked for workflow enhancements as well. So we're going to be upgrading to the latest activity engine. And we have a new manager working on activity, along with Tom Byans. He's working on the Alfresco portions of it. Thijs Rademacher, who actually wrote the book, literally, on activity. And he's been working on this and making it possible to do things like have a full workflow designer and also kind of deal with some of the trickier aspects of activity. And then also you'll be able to get the Google Docs integration. Now, it's really interesting that Gartner, when we spoke to them recently, actually found that this is more important than integration with SharePoint because satisfaction of SharePoint is going down so much that people seem to want to use Google Docs more, which is very interesting. So later on in the year, we're going to be making more progress on things like that. And perhaps one of the most important things is solutions. Some of them are going to come from Alfresco. Some of them are going to come from our partners as well. But you will see them certified, co-branded, and delivered by Alfresco. So we can, you got one throat to throttle, and we'll be able to take, support, and also deliver, do QA on the products so you can go ahead and trust them. And we're going to focus on those common business processes. So things like case management, image capture, digital asset management, records management, document publishing. These are the areas that we're looking to kind of create and deliver solutions. Some of them are more important than others. Also some common integrations as well, to be able to take and deliver out of the box, or at least close to out of the box, integrations with some of the most important applications both inside the enterprise as well as outside the enterprise. Mobile, we've delivered the SDK, and very soon you'll also see it on not just iOS but on Android. And so the Android client's coming out pretty soon. And also you'll be able to see workflow with activity inside the mobile client. And you'll be seeing more mobile device management. Later on, we have a project called Project Odin. That's not actually Odin, that's God. But that was the closest thing I could find. And so, sacrilege. It's okay, it's legal in Britain. So as part of Project Odin, you'll be seeing a new big data server, new support for queries, an easier workflow designer. And I can go through some of these things, but I wanted to go through a little bit of depth. One is the Alfresco big data server. People seem to be very interested in this in Berlin. I think it's just the word big data gets everybody all excited and hot and bothered. And it's really taking the technologies of NoSQL and aggregating the results from multiple repositories, multiple tenants, and do a lot of things that just aren't possible in a standard SQL database. So activity feeds work. They work fine. They're working fine on cloud. But when we start to scale this, there's going to be a lot more activities, and we're going to start to capture a whole lot more information. So the whole notion of what an audit trail is, what an activity trail is, activity feed is, are going to be, they're going to be more or less the same data that we can go ahead and take things like likes, ratings, reads, comments, and whatever, and be able to collect them and be able to scale it across many different surfaces, but also be able to deliver unique views on that really quickly using techniques like MapReduce and whatever. Also things like profiles, preferences, and whatever can be stored separately. And these are areas where eventual consistency is good enough, and that you don't need transactionality for some of this data. So that will allow us to be able to do a lot of analytics on this stuff and be able to get new insights on not just what's the favorite content, but perhaps make recommendations on content. And to see how content's actually being used and how it fits all these different business processes, give completely unique new insight. Of course, we're going to work on scale and administration, things like sharding for the tenants, which we'll need for the cloud, but should be useful for you as well as you make really big servers with Alfresco. Getting into the upper hundreds of millions and exceeding into the billions. Also things like the latest version of Solar for being able to do clustering configuration, and just being able to do more configuration management and some basic administration. Making it possible for end users to create workflow as well. So usually, first workflow was the domain of developers, then workflow was the domain of business analysts. Now workflow and business processes should be the domain of everybody. So we just want to make that far easier and actually make it work within a mobile environment. So as the processes start to go out into the field and close to the customer, that they can be participating in it. It's fully recognized in this. And to be able to hook into all the different components of the ecosystem as well. So I'm not saying that we're going to be supporting all these. We're going to be prioritizing it. In fact, we have actually connected to a lot of these things. But this shows you how we're thinking about the whole ecosystem. That it isn't just about your ERP system anymore or inside the enterprise. It's also outside the enterprise, your marketing channels as well as the tools in the cloud. And it's also your mobile devices and the roles that they can play. And it did say SharePoint on there. And I just said, it's not necessarily the most popular thing, especially when they ask you to poop on your Java. But it's clear that enterprise content management plays a role that is different from SharePoint. These are the things that you would not normally see a SharePoint system supporting. And when you do, somebody is in the wrong place. But these are the types of things that should work hand in hand, that you will see a more cooperative approach and a more complementary approach between SharePoint and Alfresco. And these are some of the things that you'll see, things like web parts, things like archiving from SharePoint, and also synchronization between the two systems, the ability to be able to take workflow from Alfresco and make that part of what's going on inside of SharePoint. So lots of things that we can do. It's a big piece of the enterprise. We can't ignore it, but we can certainly do better than they do in a lot of other areas. And so this may seem like strange bedfellows, and we all know that open source is communist anyway, but who knows? So where we're going with this is we want to go forth and create solutions. This is the direction that we're taking. Our vision is to have the one true open and hybrid platform to enable those solutions. And you can see what we consider very important in that is the ability to create the solutions, package the solutions, deploy the solutions, and be able to run them very effectively in the enterprise. And that's what we want to be able to focus on. And you're going to see a lot of really interesting stuff. And Some of it is going to be really kind of complicated, and some of it's just going to be really kind of fun as well. But at the very least, I hope to see you all tonight and have a lot of fun as well. So I have totally destroyed this Monty Python thing. It is left in ruins overall. But I'd like to thank the cast of Monty Python for doing their bit for this whole thing. And one last note, I just couldn't help myself. That's all, folks. The end. However, we know in Monty Python, it never really ends, does it? The announcer comes on with a voiceover, and now is something completely different. And so, now, I would like to press the button. Now, it's really weird. You know, the first time I went on vacation in Britain, went to the beach in Wales, and I just thought, what the heck was this? You know, when R.J. Gumby or D.P. Gumby came up, they were going off with this Gumby thing, and I go to the beach, and people are actually dressed like that. They really exist. That was just like shocking. I just could not believe it. Anyway, like I said, we're out of time. We got things to do here. So we would like to, there's a reason I use Gumby. You will see, can you see that there are two buttons on here? Two. There's a green button and there's a red button. Green is good. Sorry? Sure. See? 44 minutes. If I could just get this out. Okay. So basically, the Gumbies have this tendency to just kind of smash things. And it's very bad if I press this red button. It's very good if I press this green button. This is Alfresco 1.4. It's got workflow. It's got the ability to edit. It's got new synchronization capabilities in there. And I'm going to be using it for taking notes in meetings, because I can just go ahead and upload text files directly from Alfresco and take notes, and they'll go straight into Alfresco. So here we go. Okay, continue. There we go. Feel free to download. I heard that Documentum said that they were the only ones who could actually do synchronization on mobile device, and I just thought, I don't know about that. So, okay, thank you very much, and I hope you tolerated my presentation here. Anyone a lawyer, just in case? Okay, yeah. It's right here. Wait, don't go. Don't go. You're going to miss the demo here.
Do you going to take that in case it rings. Okay.
Mike is getting ready. Are you okay?
It's a network problem.
Okay. We might have a little network issue here. We did something fun over in Berlin, which was to ask what country people were from. And, you know, in Berlin, it's just like crazy places, you know. People came from all over. It was a really great location. It was like 5-minute walk from Checkpoint Charlie. But you know, I'm not expecting too many people too far afield, but what I asked them to do is show some pride in the place that they came from. So how many people are from California? Hey. How many people are from the great state of Texas? New York? Oh, come on. Come on, what are you doing? All right. New Jersey. All right. Okay. You should have heard the Brits. I am. Who's from outside the United States? Did I ask this already? Okay. All right. Okay, just wanted to get a sense. Okay, thanks.
Okay, thanks, John. Okay, so I'm going to take a few minutes just to demonstrate some of the things that John was talking about and some of the things we've been working on. I know we are kind of up against the break here, so I'm going to go really fast. And I think I can speak a bit more quickly to this audience than I could do in Berlin, so I'm going to go quick. Okay, so when John asked me if I could demo some of the new stuff that's coming down the line, I asked him if he had any content that would be useful for me to show to you as part of the demo. So what he sent me was a bunch of pictures. So some of these things may be familiar to you. So I've got a bunch of graphics files, PNG files, and things like that. And what I'm going to do is just going to take those files and copy it over into my documents area on my file system here. So what we can see is this is just a local file system path. I've got a graphics folder, and I'm going to drop that in there. And this is actually dropping it into a sync folder that's part of the preview of the desktop sync that we have available. So I've just gone and copied those, pasted it into that place on the file system. And we'll jump over to my browser, and here you can see that this is Share that we all know and love. And I've created a demo site here for the DevCon San Jose event. So within there, we've got a document library. And in the document library, I've got a place to store documents and graphics and photos and presentations and those kinds of things. So I'm just going to jump into the documents area. And you can see I've got a few documents in here, one of which is it's actually a Word document, which was part of the training materials that we put together. And I'm going to come to this and say that I wanted to edit it. But rather than going into Word on the desktop, what I've said is I want to edit it in Google Docs. So you can see it's very seamlessly just taken that document, open that into a dedicated window here. So we can say, hello. So make my edits and click Save to Alfresco. It's going to ask me to version it. Click on OK. And you can see that very seamlessly I can just go from Alfresco and use Google Docs as my editor. So this is completely rewritten compared to the previous version that we had. So this is a replacement really for the old Google Docs approach. And it doesn't require background syncing or anything like that. It's fully embedded into the browser environment. So here you can see the change that I've made there, and you can see it on the preview. So this feature, this functionality is available today, as John mentioned, actually in the cloud. So that went out today. So if you want to have a look at that and play with it, you can do that in the cloud version. OK, so remember the graphics that I went and added into the folder there? Onto my desktop. What's actually happened there is it's obviously seen those items have been added onto the file system, and it's automatically synchronized those for me. So here we can see that I've got a bunch of PNG files. Maybe if I change it to the detail view, you can see that we've got thumbnails for those. So that's quite a nice way of presenting those documents. But if we've got a lot of documents or a lot of images, it's not the best way if I want to visually find information. So what we've introduced is a new view, and this view is called the gallery view. And what this presents is more of a kind of light box style approach. So here I can have different size thumbnails. I can change the size of those very quickly and easily. Just go and change the size on the bar there. So it's a really nice way of visually being able to find and locate content. And actually in here we've got a picture of one of our very early employees. I think this is employee number 1 officially. So if I was just to try and find him through metadata, that might be quite difficult to do. But through this view, it's quite easily to spot in Rogues Gallery here we have one of our early engineers. He hates me using this photo. That's the only reason I show it, really. Okay, so the gallery view is a way of allowing you to visually find things much quicker and easier. But we're also working on other views. So this is work in progress. And what I've just done here is come over to a different page, and this is what we call the module deployment page. And it's actually using a new extension capability that we've been working on for the last year or so to make it much easier for us and yourselves to actually develop extensions that extend the functionality without requiring you to change core code and core capabilities. So when I add one of these new modules in this case, it's going to be a new view that we're working on called the focus view. This view has not, by applying this module, I am not changing any core code. It's a true extension. If you think of it like a plugin, that's probably a good way of thinking about it. So by applying that module, I've been able to actually plug in some new capabilities, and I'm doing that at runtime. Didn't have to restart my server. So what I can do here is just go and click on a new view icon that you'd see, and this is more of a kind of film strip type view on the document library. I should say, by the way, that although I'm using images here because they're kind of nicer for demoing with, for documents, you'll also get the thumbnails of the first page of the document in these views as well. So from here, I can quickly start to flick through. Here I'm just using the keyboard just to flick through the images. If I want to see a bigger preview, I can just get rid of the background there. Again, just keep flicking through. And this is also touch-friendly as well. So if I was looking at it on a touch device, I could just be swiping through it on the touch device. So again, it's a really nice way of visually being able to present that content. I'm just going to jump over into a different folder here. And this is a folder for photos. And what's actually been happening while we've been presenting this morning is Paul's been taking pictures of the presenters, and he's been dropping them into the cloud. And I've actually got this set up, so if I just step up one level and let's just go to this view, you can see that I've got an icon here next to this folder. This shows that this is being set up to synchronize automatically with Alfresco in the cloud. And if we go and open up the photo folder there, we can see those images, those photos that Paul's been creating. So this is a nice view to look for things with a combination of metadata and visually. As we saw, we've got the gallery view that allows us to, again, look at it visually. But this is not really very good when you're dealing with metadata. So another one of the views that we've been working on is what we call the spreadsheet view. This is a working title. We may stick with that name or we may change it. But what the spreadsheet view is providing is a more kind of traditional view on top of the top of the documents that we're managing here. So if I go and click on the spreadsheet view, what you'll see is a more kind of screen resolution doesn't suit this very well. Let's just do that. Okay, is a more kind of traditional tabular style layout. So here we can see the columns containing the metadata. Now these columns are being driven by configuration. So for what you can see here is because these are images, we've got things like camera model information, width and size of the images, etc. If I want to change that, you can configure those views. So this is the columns that are available. So if I wanted to hide the description, I can do that there, and we can see that kind of that metadata style view. Other types of things that we have here is the ability to edit in line. So if I want to make a change, I can quickly change that. If we want to tag something, again, we can just come in here and do all this stuff in line. So some of the other things we'll be providing is the ability to do bulk updating of metadata through this view here, the ability to reorder columns, to do sorting on those columns, those kinds of things. So it's a much nicer view when you've got lots of content, lots of metadata that you need to work with and handle. OK. So the other area that we've been looking at is the actual visual appearance of Share. So we've been working on a couple of things. First thing is to actually update the themes that are available to change the look and feel. So I'm going to just come in here and go to my admin tool, and let's just go to the theme here. And I'm going to apply a theme that we've been working on that's called the light theme. While I'm here, I'll just update the logo as well that we apply into the app. So just come in and grab the logo from DevCon. So when we apply that view, we can see it's actually giving it a much more kind of lightweight, more modern feel to the view on the application here. And along with that, again, as an extension at this point, is an update to the navigation, to the header that's being used there. So I'll just apply that view. Go back to my dashboard. And you can see it's pretty, it's quite a significant change to the user interface, again, just done through theming and by adding a new header component in there. So this won't break existing components. It's an extension that we can just replace or extend the existing header. And again, it's just a much more lightweight feel, a much more modern feel for navigation purposes. OK, I'm just going to jump back to the file system very quickly, because if you remember, what I did originally was add those files into my local file system there. Well, what's also been happening is that, as we talked about, is Paul's been putting things into the cloud. And what I've got here is this is a picture of me a few minutes ago. And what happened was Paul took the picture on his, was it the phone or on the iPad? So Paul's taken a picture on the iPad. He's uploaded it using the 1.4 app. As part of that, he could actually trigger workflows, John mentioned in the presentation. That's been put into Alfresco in the cloud. It's been automatically synced back to my Alfresco running on my laptop, and then I've synced from that to my local file system. So as John was talking about, this ability to actually synchronize across multiple devices, both on-premise, in the cloud, and mobile, is exactly what we've just done in the last 10 minutes or so as part of the demo here. So just a taster, really, of some of the things that we're working on. If you want to hear more about the custom views, there's presentations on that. If you want to hear more about how we built those extensions, there's presentations around that, more about integrations, and all the other work that's coming in the new features, then that's what this next 2 days is all about. So